and buenvenidos. Welcome to Molé Mama Cooking with Love. We drive connection, unity, acceptance, and love across all cultures and generations. I want to be very clear that all are welcome here, and we are delighted and grateful to have you listening. You're about to join me for our weekly adventure. And tonight we're going to be talking all about barbecue, one of my favorite foods. I can't wait. We'd also love for you to visit our YouTube channel where you can learn to make delicious guacamole, chimichangas, molcajetes de queso y chorizo fundido, crunchy tacos, enchiladas, flour tortillas, and so much more. I'm also super excited to share that this last week, my crunchy tacos video hit 51,000 views, so I'm very grateful for all of you who have watched it. And more importantly, so many people are making my mama's crunchy tacos and loving them, and it's so fun for me to hear about their adventures with crunchy tacos and also to see them being made in other countries other than the U.S. So yay and thank you. If you have any questions at all about any of those recipes on YouTube, please reach out and I would be happy to help you make those successful. And please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. We'd love to hear from you. And my favorite quote from Mother Teresa, spread love everywhere you go and let no one ever come to you without leaving happier. I believe one of the best ways that you can spread your love is with your food. Cooking for your family, cooking for your friends, sharing a meal. That is what I'm all about. So let me tell you about my favorite barbecue. I grew up in a little place called Santa Maria, California, and it is in the central coast of California. So let's just first be clear, it's not part of Southern California, and it is not part of Northern California. It's kind of dead in the middle of the state on the coast, so it's close to the ocean. And my little town is still famous for its barbecue, Santa Maria barbecue. Now, this term is even copyrighted, and we're going to hear all about that because it is something that has made its way all over the country, and it's kind of fun. Santa Maria still is a very much of an agricultural city or town, and I grew up on a dairy farm 7 miles from town, close to the ocean, and a lot of broccoli is grown there, cauliflower, lettuce, and now lots of strawberries. And there are vineyards. It's close to San Ynez, if you've heard of that. Santa Barbara, California is only an hour south, and Paso Robles and the vineyards there. So it is a beautiful, beautiful place with lots of farms. And food is really at the center of a lot what's happening in Santa Maria. It's either being grown, there's livestock there, not as much as when I was growing up. When I was growing up, there were 40 dairy farms. There's not that many left now. But I needed to tell you about that so you have an understanding that I am a farm girl through and through. And I love food, and there's a reason for it. It was the way my family made their living. And everybody that I grew up with was making their living around me. So back to Santa Maria Style BBQ. What is it? So it is primarily tri-tip is probably the thing that's made is the most famous about Santa Maria is its tri-tip or Santa Maria Style tri-tip. And think of a rump roast. It's kind of like a rump roast. It's actually a top block sirloin is the official term. And so it's a big chunk of beef. And it gets either salted in dry spices or I marinate that mine. And I'll tell you about mine later, our family recipe. And grilled over oak wood. So an open flame and it's grilled and the smoky flavor from the oak gets absorbed into the tri-tip. And it is this flavor that is so amazing and magical and delicious and just, oh, it's so, so good. And it also, in addition to the tri-tip, it's also people will do chicken, and I'll give you some recipes for that later, as well as ribs. The big takeaway is that not only is it grilled over an open flame, usually red oak, specifically red oak, there's no sauce. So it's not a barbecue style like you get in the south of our country, and other places like Texas where it's slathered in sauce. This is no sauce. This is dry rub. And officially, it's supposed to be served with a fresh salsa. And it has made so much noise in the press that it's been featured on the Cooking Channel, on Forbes, Sunset Magazine, the San Francisco Chronicle, the Wall Street Journal, New York Times. Bobby Flay has had some, Serious Eats, LA Weekly, US Today, and so many others. So it is a thing. So I'm super excited tonight to share everything I know about barbecuing, Santa Maria style, and some of our family secrets. So it's going to be a fun adventure. And I wanted you to know about this just in time for 4th of July, if you're going to celebrate that, or in summer, if you're going to do any type of summer barbecue. So Santa Maria Chamber of Commerce went as far as to copyright the menu of what items should be served with their Santa Maria style barbecue. So I'm going to read you a little bit about this because it's kind of fun. So as I was mentioning, it's a top block sirloin and tri-tip. It's a triangular bottom sirloin cut that originated in Santa Maria Valley. It is now even carried at Costco in California. I'm not sure how far west it goes, so you can get this cut of meat. And the meat is rolled into a mixture of salt, pepper, and garlic salt before you barbecue it over red oak. And like I said, we do ours a little differently, but it's still dry. And the Santa Maria style barbecue menu, which was copyrighted in 1978, includes, so this is the official menu that goes with this meal, is fresh salsa, grilled French bread dipped in sweet melted butter, tossed green salad, and slow-cooked pinquito beans. Macaroni and cheese is also considered an early staple of the menu. Pinquito beans are my all-time favorite beans. Now, these are small pink bean. They are grown in the Santa Maria Valley and surrounding areas, so they're a little bit hard to find, but they are fantastic. They're a little bit bigger than a lentil, and they really hold their firmness. So when you cook them, they don't get all mushy. So they're really great to use in chili beans because they hold their consistency and they are so incredibly flavorful. So I like to make my chili beans when I can find them. Like I said, they are a little bit challenging to do so. And then they also, in the Chamber of Commerce, make a recommendation that the best way to enjoy the Santa Maria style barbecue is with a Pinot or a Syrah from the Santa Maria Valley, of course. And to finish it off with a dessert featuring locally grown strawberries, because there are lots of strawberries in Santa Maria. So there you go. Now you know a little bit more about Santa Maria and its barbecue. So one of the other things about this barbecue is that it is a thing throughout the area. So if you go to the park on a Sunday, that's what people are doing. They're at the park and they're grilling on wood and they're with their families and friends and having parties. And when I was growing up, most of the big parties of my childhood, graduations, Mother's Day, birthdays, were all done at the park with the barbecue. So much fun. The other thing that happens in Santa Maria is that in a lot of the parking lots, like if you go to the JCPenney parking lot and others, if there's a fundraiser going on, they're doing it with barbecue. So you can drive down the main street of Broadway, which is one of the longer streets in Santa Maria, even to this day, and you'll get the smell of this wood, the oak wood smell, and the cooking of the food on it, the chicken or the tri-tip or the ribs. And you can pull into almost any parking lot and walk up and buy yourself a plate of barbecue. It's just the way it's done. And it's really, really fun. I've purchased it so many times. And like I mentioned, it's almost always for a fundraiser of some sort. So you're supporting some local community event. But the food is just fantastic. So as I mentioned earlier, I grew up on a dairy farm. So how did I learn how to grill? So, or more officially in Santa Maria, referred to as barbecue. So lots of us, or lots of people I know, the head barbecue person in the family is the dad or the husband or the brothers. But in my family, because my dad was usually busy milking cows all the time or working on the farm in other capacities, my mom was the head chef barbecue person. So we had a wood grill that she taught me how to use, so that my mama taught me how to make barbecue. And not only did she teach me how to make barbecue, she taught me how to marinate it and prepare all the meat and do all the good stuff behind it to prep and to make the fire. Because making the fire is tricky. I have to admit, it is a combination of using newspaper and kindling. And like I used to have a little axe. And if we didn't have any pre-cut kindling, sometimes my brother wasn't around, I'd have to do it. So you have to basically build this little pyramid of newspaper and kindling, and then you can lay your pieces of oak across it, and you have to do it in a way that there's air that's going to get in there so that it can catch. And Santa Maria, because it's close to the ocean, is very damp, so lots of times the wood would be a little bit damp because of the weather. And so it is, that in itself is a process, and then getting it really, really hot, but also letting the barbecue, the wood itself, get to a level where there's coals and you can see the coals, because you don't want to place your items that you're going to barbecue too soon, because it's going to be absolutely too hot. And you also want that smoky flavor to get into the meat. So the entire process of learning how to cook with wood was really quite something, and something that my mom probably spent years. And while I was still living at home, I would never put the meat on the grill without getting my mama to come and check it and go, okay, is the fire ready? And I remember her coming out and so many times being, nope, it's not ready yet. And the other thing that I also learned is that when you are grilling with oak, you smell like oak. Like every piece of your being smells like oak. So that has proven to be a little bit problematic for me. I have very long hair, and the smell just gets in there and I can't get rid of it. So oftentimes I have guests that are coming over, I'm grilling, and I usually have time to take a quick shower so that I'm not, reeking throughout the rest of my party, but I can usually never wash my hair because it takes so long. So I did devise, for anybody listening who grills and has an issue with their hair smelling like smoke, I have been using a shower cap with like a little wrap, and that works. And I know it looks hysterical. I posted a picture of it on Instagram, but I look quite funny, but it does work, and it does keep my hair from reeking like oak wood. It's not a bad thing. It's just when you have guests, not so great. So how did we actually, what did we grill when I was growing up? Usually it was the tri-tip. So I was talking about it before, and there's even a pre-mixed dry spice that you can use for, I think it's carried in lots of different Costco's across California. I don't know where else it's being carried. You can probably go to Amazon and see if they have it, but it's called Suzy Q's. There's a lot of people that use that on their tri-tip. It's a really good option. I am kind of a control freak about how much salt, how much this, how much that things get. So I make mine from scratch, and my mom never used that. So what we did is super, super simple. We marinated the tri-tip for a day, and the marinade that we make for it is just fresh garlic, salt, and pepper. And then I will add a little tiny bit of red vinegar to it. And that's to tenderize the meat. And that is it. That is absolutely it. I know that when my older son was still living at home, and he loves to grill and barbecue, and he's a really great cook, he experimented with all kinds of things that he would put on his tri-tip. And he'd always come back and be like, "Oh, Mom, just this basic recipe is the best." I go, "I know. It's very, very simple, but I think a really nice complement with the beef is the garlic. Of course, I love garlic. Garlic is good with everything, just about. And then the salt and the pepper. So it's just super simple. And the way that you actually grill tri-tip or barbecue it. So if you have even if you have a gas grill and you're going to try this, is that you really want to cook this meat at pretty high heat. Because what you want it to do, it's like a roast. I mentioned it's a big hunk. You want it to just maybe flip it twice. So you start it on one side, and you're going to flip it on the other side. You might need to do like a center section depending on how thick the cut is. That's what I do. But I usually, if I'm using my gas grill, I cook it for about 45 minutes, depending on how big it is. But if I'm using it on my oak wood, I do it a little bit longer because the heat that I'm using on my oak, I've usually got ribs on there as well, baby backs, and we'll get through those in a minute. You want to cook those at a little lower heat, so it takes a little bit longer. But what you're going to do is you're going to get this crust, this amazing crust around the edges, and you're going to pull it off of your heat, and you're going to let it set for a good 20 minutes. It's going to continue to cook, and it just needs to set. It really does. It's kind of magical. And then when you serve it, you want to slice it really, really thin. And you slice it really thin because it's going to be really tender and juicy, and it's just delicious. And as I mentioned before, too, it is really great served with a fresh salsa. And my fresh salsa is on my website, but the recipe is super simple. All you do is finely chop fresh tomatoes, a little bit of onion. You can use serrano chiles or jalapenos or both. You can seed them if you don't want it to be hot, or you can leave a little bit of the seeds in. A couple of cloves of garlic, some fresh lime juice, some cilantro. It's diced, as I mentioned, all super tiny, and salt. That is it. And that is such a wonderful, easy, fresh salsa. And when I make that fresh salsa, because of the lime juice, I can usually keep it in my refrigerator for about 5 days. Usually doesn't last that long in our house because we put it on everything, but it is especially delicious on tri-tip. The other thing that when we grill that has to be part of the menu and is kind of a big deal and a big event, and one of the things that my mom loved the most is grilled bread. So you take a whole loaf of either sourdough bread or just, sweet bread, and you slice it in half down the long ways, and basically just slather it up with butter and a little bit of granulated garlic, or you can use fresh garlic, and you actually grill that on your grill. You need to be a little bit careful because of the butter, and especially when you flip it onto the side where it has the butter and the butter starts dripping into the flames. It does get that smoke, but also it can burn pretty easily. So you want to have it kind of high when you start or on low heat to start. But the butter will kind of get crusty, toasty, and it is so delicious. Oh, and it's so good with barbecue, and you just slice it when it's all done. And when I make it for my parties, people are usually like, "Can I just have bread now?" And if that happens, the bread all gets eaten before dinner's even served. So I usually have to say, "No, we're going to wait," because you just can't have one piece. And the other thing about the bread is I remember when I would be doing the bread at home for my mom, is I'd put the butter all over it, and she'd always come back and go, "That's not enough butter." So we always had this running joke that we're actually having some bread with our butter instead of the other way around because she loved butter so much. But again, also so delicious. And if by any stroke of luck you have extra bread, and so that's the other thing, is that depending on the number of guests that you're cooking for, I've kind of learned the hard way is that I usually do a lot more bread than I really need. It keeps for a few days. It's easy to give away to your guests or going home to take with them. But it makes the best little sandwiches. So you can think of making like a little slider with little slices of toasted French bread, a little tri-tip, a little salsa, maybe a little avocado. So, so good the next day. And I have to admit that when I was growing up, lots of times when we didn't have a cafeteria at the little school that I went to, we would take our lunch every day, and I would have these little tri-tip sandwiches, and the other little kids would be like, "What? What does your mom give you in your lunches?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know. It's pretty awesome." So, just something to think about. The other thing that goes with our barbecue that we always have when on hand whenever we make it, the official is to have, chili beans and macaroni and cheese. But in Mama Rose's house and in Molé Mama's house now, it is you must have Spanish rice and chili beans. So I always make my mama's orange rice, Spanish rice. It's on my YouTube channel as well as in my book. But that rice is so delicious and it's so easy to make. And again, I'm not talking about food that's light here. So you got to make sure you tell guests when they come to be hungry because this is a lot of food. But the Spanish rice, along with the chili beans, those panquito chili beans, or if you don't have access to panquitos, use pinto beans. And that recipe is also on my YouTube channel and also in my book. But that recipe is really spicy. It has bacon, chorizo, and ground beef, as well as all kinds of other spices. So it's more like a chili. So the chili beans with the Spanish rice and the tri-tip barbecue, oh my goodness. And the other thing is the bread. Taking that garlic bread and dipping it into your beans, oh my. The first time that my husband, when we were first dating and he came to Santa Maria for a big party, we were at the park, of course, and he couldn't understand why people were freaking out when the beans were hot, asking for bowls of beans before all the meat was ready and sitting down and they had some bread already ready to go. And people were like taking giant bowls of beans with this garlic bread and dipping it and just like being lost in food heaven. And I remember my husband kind of nudging me going, "What's the deal with the beans and the bread?" And I'm like, "Oh my goodness, you haven't lived until you've had chili beans with grilled French bread. There's just, you just haven't." So we got him a little bowl of my mama's chili beans and he got some bread and he was converted. He was like, "I had no idea. I never knew that bread and beans could be so amazing." I'm like, "I know, right? Who knew? Who knew the bread and beans?" So those are a couple of the other ingredients. The other thing I always have to have on hand when I'm having a barbecue is I have to have guacamole. So now that I'm in San Diego, I'm so excited because I have an avocado tree for the first time in my life. And a couple of days ago, I picked my first avocado off my own tree, and it was so delicious that I have to say I ate the whole thing without actually making it into guacamole because I love avocado so much. But guacamole, you guys, is a great addition to any barbecue, to any summer party. And again, recipes on my YouTube channel as well as my website and in my book. But it's my mama's recipe, and it's super basic, like a lot of our recipes are. But and with all real food, she always had a way of saying, guacamole does not have sour cream or mayonnaise. People, no, 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 no. It's all about the real stuff. So the real stuff is avocados, serrano chilies, jalapeno chilies, a little bit of white or yellow onion, cilantro, tomatoes, fresh lime juice, and a bit of salt, and that is it. And it is so good. And if you're trying to not have chips, I discovered that another great way to eat guacamole without having chips is using endive. Filling up the endive leaves with a little bit of guacamole is a great snack. And saves you a little bit if you're not trying to do corn chips, which, corn chips are a thing for me. So it's really hard for me not to do those. But I did discover that. So we've got a lot more that we're going to be talking about because we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, I'm going to be telling you how to make the best barbecue chicken ever. Seriously, my husband loves it, and everybody who has it is like, why don't I know about this? As well as sharing my barbecue ribs, the dry rub that I make for the baby backs that I make on my oak pit. So I hope that you'll stay with us, and we'll be back in just a minute. Thank you. Hola, this is Molé Mama. If you're enjoying our new podcast, you might want to check out my new book, Molé Mama, a memoir of love, cooking, and loss. Please stay tuned to learn more. My new book, Molé Mama, a memoir of love, cooking, and loss, is a story of my beautiful mother, Rose. Her family was from Mexico, and she taught me how to make amazing Mexican dishes like enchiladas and Spanish rice and mole and crunchy tacos and guacamole and all different types of salsas. The story focuses on the last 13 months of her life, where she helped me perfect her recipes that had never been written down, while she taste tested from her hospital bed and I cooked for her from the kitchen. It was the last part of our story together, but there is joy in the story. There is love, and I hope that it consoles you, it helps you connect and remember those that you love. Squeeze them a little harder, keep them a little closer. But oh, the stories of food, and there's even recipes. I hope you decide to check out my new book. Go to Amazon.com and search for Molé Mama, a memoir of love, cooking, and loss. Que Dios te bendiga. May God bless you. Hello everyone, we're back. We have been talking all about Santa Maria Style BBQ, and I got so excited during the first half to tell you all about what tri-tip is and how you grill over oak wood and how hard it is to make those fires that make food taste like heaven, that I forgot to tell you about my pit. So last year, I got to tell you this because this is amazing. My hubby does a great job at getting me amazing presents, but he really hit a home run last year for my birthday. He had a custom pit made for me in Santa Maria. So Santa Maria Grills, I think, made it for me, and it is amazing. It's pretty big, so I can grill a lot of food on it. I think I can do 4 chickens and 6 racks of baby backs at the same time, so it's pretty big. And the other thing is you can turn it, so I can adjust the height of the grill. So that is just such a lifesaver, especially when you're using wood, because depending on how much air you're getting into your fire and how hot it's getting, it can shift and move around. And it's another thing I forgot to mention is that you really have to, when you're grilling over wood, you can't leave the fire unattended. It has a life of its own, and you got to stay put and take care of that fire, because you'll get hot spots and kind of disasters set in. Sometimes the wood is super, super dry, and it burns a little bit faster than you expected, so you have to add more wood in, and you're moving the wood around all the time. So it is this dance, this very interesting dance that you do with fire, but boy, the flavor is so worth it. So my hubby getting me a grill that you can actually adjust the grill height with, amazing, fantastic. And then the other thing that my grill that he had done for me is my logo is on top of it. So Molé Mama. So it was done with a 3D printer, and it's so beautiful and so special that they put my logo on it for me. And on each side of it, it has these 2 gigantic cutting boards Also so functional and wonderful. And their inserts are big plastic cutting boards, so I can take them out and wash them. But it's great to have that when I'm grilling because I can slice my bread out there. Oftentimes I'll slice the tri-tips. I'm not making a huge mess in my kitchen, or if there's other people cooking or doing things in my kitchen, I don't have to disrupt them. But it's just fantastic and I love it so much. So anyway, if you're really into barbecue and you have done oak wood or other types of wood barbecuing, I would recommend someday getting your own grill because it is life-changing and it is so much fun to have your own barbecue. Every time I'm using mine, I am just smiling and so happy. All right, back to the cooking. So I promised to share with you my barbecue chicken recipe. So it's not really mine. Of course, it's my mama's, like everything, but usually started with my mom, and I usually add some small little twist to it. But basically, you want to use you can use pieces of chicken. I would recommend if you are going to use just pieces of chicken, like the thigh or the legs or the breast or any pieces, to get the bone and get the skin. So you want to grill them with the bone and the skin. That is going to help you have more flavor. And it's also going to help seal in the juices of the meat and have something for the smoke to really hang on to and then just get into that meat and give it that smoky flavor that's just amazing. Because if you try and use like a boneless, skinless chicken breast or boneless, it's not going to be as good, and it's going to dry out easier. So just some recommendations from Molé Mama. I actually like to use whole chickens. It's what I grew up learning how to use. And the beauty of using a whole chicken, splitting it in half and grilling the halves, is that you have the skin will allow it's going to seal that chicken and seal in the flavor and also maintain the juiciness of the chicken. So not only is it going to have this amazing wood flavor, it's going to be juicy. The only trick is that chicken and the breast, and depending on how big the chicken is, it's a little bit tricky to cook it and to make sure that it's cooked all the way through. So when I'm grilling chickens on my wood pit, I'm usually grilling them for a couple of hours, maybe 2.5 hours in kind of a lower heat, and checking them and flipping them around to make sure that depending on where the heat of the flame is, that it's getting cooked. So again, you're not going to leave this fire. You're just going to be hanging out outside. Grab some music, grab something to drink because you're going to be there a while, but it's so worth it. And with the chicken also doesn't have a sauce. It's a marinade. And I make my marinade from scratch. It's my mama's recipe, like I said earlier. And all it is, it's vinegar, so red wine vinegar, fresh garlic, salt, and pepper. And sometimes the other thing that you can add, and it depends on whether you're a fan or not, but adding soy sauce, oh my goodness, it's such a good add. So if you do the vinegar, the soy sauce, the garlic, the salt and pepper, and if you're a fan of onions, I would also add in some sliced onions. So all the other ingredients I mentioned, I throw into my food processor, and then I just do the sliced onions on top. But you want to make sure that the chicken is completely submerged in the marinade, and I do it for a minimum of 24 hours. If I have time, I prefer to do it for 2 days. But oh, it's so, so delicious. And while I'm cooking it kind of in the early stages, I will add additional sauce to the chicken as it's cooking. But I only do that probably for the first 30 minutes or so. And then, you get to slice it. And when you start slicing that chicken, and once you've done barbecue chicken this way, you also set it aside like you would your tri-tip, but you want to make sure that it's done. And you can set it aside for a long time. So it's nice to make the chicken, and we're going to talk about the ribs, because you can grill them, get them off the grill, keep them in the oven at a low, low, low temperature to just keep them warm. and then slice things right before you're going to serve them, because as soon as you start slicing that chicken, you'll just see the juice just running out of it. It's so juicy and so delicious. So, and if you decide to try this recipe, and if you have any questions, you're always welcome to reach out to me. But it is so good. And like I said, my husband's like, "Why did you keep this a secret from me?" And others that I've made it for are like, "What?" So yum, yum, yum. The other thing that goes great on any grill, including my wood pit, is linguiça. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, I'm always talking about linguiça. It's Portuguese sausage. And in Santa Maria, it was something that I ate a lot of growing up. It's fantastic grilled. And it is a spicy Portuguese sausage. The brand that I love, fortunately, it's not no relation to me, but it is the Silva Linguiça. You can get it in some Costco's, and I know that you can order it online, because I've had friends on the East Coast that have ordered it and had it shipped from California all the way up to New Jersey. So if you want to try that, if you haven't tried it, it's, like I said, really yummy. It's great as an appetizer. So it's just a sausage that you can slice up, serve as an appetizer. It's also great if it's left over, because it's really good with eggs in the morning. Also, linguiça sandwiches are really fantastic with a little bit of cheddar cheese. So just a fantastic, another great item that you can barbecue for the summer. So the last thing I wanted to talk about from a meat perspective is baby back ribs. So like I mentioned, there's no sauce. This is a dry rub. And I make my dry rub, and my foundation for my dry rub is tahine. So tahine is spelled Tejin. It is a Mexican spice. It has all kinds of spices in it, as well as some dried lime, I believe. So it kind of has a tangy flavor to it. Usually we will put tahine on melons, on cucumbers, on all kinds of things. You'll see this red spice on a lot of the, mangoes, vegetables that Latin people will be selling, and that's tahine. Well, I actually use it in my ribs. So I use tahine. I also use brown sugar, and I use all kinds of other spices. So I use ground red chili pepper. I use cayenne pepper. I use paprika, chipotle, garlic, onion flakes, salt, pepper, and sometimes other chili sauces or spices that I might have, because sometimes I have new things that I'm trying out. But that is the foundation for my rub. And I put my baby back ribs I have a very large stainless steel pan. It's a rectangular pan, and I put the one rack in there at a time. And then I have my dry rub in another bowl that I've mixed. And I just start basically covering it up. I use a spoon and then I use my hands, but really make sure that it just gets really covered with this dry rub. And then I lay it into cookie sheets and cover it with saran wrap and stick it in the refrigerator. Again, this needs to be marinated over 24 hours, or 24 hours is fine too. And I leave it in the fridge. But what happens when you start grilling this is you do need to be careful, because it has the brown sugar that will make it burn. But you cook it at kind of a low heat as well when you're grilling it. And it gets this crust on it from the dry rub that is so delicious. And I usually cook my ribs for 2.5 to 3 hours. So when I pull them off my pit, they're almost breaking apart when I'm using my tongs to get them off the grill, because they're so tender and the meat is just falling away from the bones. And my husband often refers to my ribs as meat candy. So they are a favorite of our families or friends that come over. They are fantastic to have around when you have people visiting, because they're really easy to heat up, to reheat, and to eat as leftovers. So if you were coming over for a barbecue at my house, you would get most likely tri-tip, my grilled chicken, my dried baby back ribs. I can't even speak because I'm like, oh, I want some of our grilled French bread with butter and chili beans and Spanish rice and fresh salsa fresca and guacamole. That would be what you would get. And maybe an ice cream cake because it's summertime and I love to make ice cream cakes in summer. So before we move on, because I wanted to talk about some other food stuff, let me tell you how to make an ice cream cake. I don't know where I stole this from. I know that I stole it from someone. It's not a Molé Mama original. Most things are not. I picked it up from somewhere. But basically, you use a very large cheesecake pan. Those pans that, have the bottom that pops out and the sides that pop out. But what I always start with is you bake a cake. So I use a cake mix. So, because baking is not really my thing, but I just use a cake mix, so maybe a chocolate cake. And then I let the cake chill overnight. So I usually do in the evening. And then the next morning when I wake up, I will my pan is pretty big. I think my pan is a 12-inch. So it's fairly large. And I will take 4 half gallons of ice cream and just pile it in there as fast as I can because it's melting. And then top it with different M&Ms or pieces of Snicker bars or animal cookies, depending on who I'm making the cake for. And then I wrap it all up in saran wrap and throw it in the freezer for at least 12 hours. And then when I serve it, it pops out of this pan. You unwrap it and you slice it and people just go crazy. But it's super, super easy. It's really easy to make and to serve. And it's really inexpensive to make because I know ice cream cakes can be kind of spendy. And you can really personalize it. So depending on if you are making it for somebody's birthday, if you find out what kind of cake they like, what kind of ice cream they like, and then if they have a candy or a cookie, so you can make it look cute. So it's just a really great alternative in the summertime. It is, when it's warmer outside, it's always nice to have some yummy ice cream cake. All right, so I hope that you've enjoyed listening and learning more about Santa Maria Style BBQ and why I like to grill so much. And as I mentioned, if you have any questions at all, please reach out. I'm happy to answer those for you. You can direct message me on Instagram or on Facebook or on YouTube. So the other thing I wanted to talk to you about with the few minutes that we have left is farmers markets. So now that summer is in full swing, oh my goodness, there's so many great farmers markets. I live in San Diego now, but when I was up north, farmers markets are just great. Not only is it a great way to support your local community, your local farmers, your local businesses, you can get really amazing food there. And I love to go and get, of course, fresh veggies and fresh fruit. And I also, when I'm not doing my traditional Santa Maria style, I like to grill veggies. So I have a basket that fits on top of my grill. I can use it on my gas grill or on my wood grill. It's basically a cooking basket that has slots in it and holes so that the heat can get through it. But I like to do varieties of squash in it. So summer squash, zucchini, and onions, maybe some red peppers in there. And I'd like to use balsamic vinegar and a little bit of olive oil and salt. And that is just an easy recipe that you just toss your veggies in. You can use cauliflower, basically anything you want, and you throw it on the grill. And it is so delicious. And this, if you're doing any kind of meal prep, is great. It goes really, really well with quinoa. So if you wanted to do something for your work lunches, again, super easy, fast, and also delicious. It's also great to add mushrooms if you like mushrooms. I'm a big mushroom fan. But usually, if you're going to add mushrooms or you're going to add, other softer vegetables, you want to time that so they're not all going on the grill at the same time because your mushrooms are going to get really mushy. So you throw those in kind of at the end if you want to keep them a little bit firmer. So great option there. I also like going to the farmer's market for the fruit, of course. So peaches, oh my gosh, apples, pears, mangoes, so whatever's in season and available. And I also love beets. And at the farmers markets, you can get a variety of different beets. I've been using a lot of golden beets lately and the red beets. But with summer, I also, in addition to grilling, I like to eat a lot more salads. It's warmer outside. It's easy to make salads in the evenings. And if you grill on Sunday and you have leftover chicken or anything, it's great to chop up some and throw it in the salad. But beets, oh my goodness, I love beets in salads. So doing beets with a little bit of goat cheese and maybe nuts. You can use all different types of nuts. I like pumpkin nuts or pumpkin seeds, excuse me, or there's just a huge number of different seeds that you can use that complement beets, and they're so delicious. And I usually like to make my own dressings. Again, I like to use real food and know what's going in my body. So a very simple salad dressing that you can make at home that is going to take you 5 minutes is a little bit of garlic, balsamic vinegar, olive oil, a little water, salt, pepper, if you want to add some red pepper flakes to that. And that's all. And it's so good on salads. Absolutely delicious. You can also add in some crushed ginger. That's also a great alternative as well, a great add. But I like to make that in advance, and I just have it in my fridge. And then if I make a salad, I just throw that on there, and so good. Fast, easy, delicious, and healthy. One of my other favorites on the grill is asparagus. I love asparagus. And what I like to do with asparagus is I actually put it on skewers. So I make it ends up looking like a rectangle with asparagus. So I might use 3 different skewers, and I'm just putting the asparagus through it, and I leave enough room at the end so that I can actually toss it on the grill. But you can put a little bit of olive oil, a little salt on it, whatever you like, but it's super easy. And again, when you're grilling it outside, it gets that nice smoky flavor, or even on a gas grill, it's going to get that barbecue feel to it. So also a great add, and something that you can also use for, any kind of meal prep that you're doing throughout the week. So very, very yummy and delicious. So one of my favorite fruits of all time are strawberries. So strawberry season. And I wanted to mention strawberries because we've talked about it on the show, of them unfortunately being on the top of the list of the Dirty 15, which means that their little skins get penetrated by the pesticides that are being used. So if you can, it's always a good idea to use organic strawberries. Like I said, they're at the top of the list of the Dirty 15. So the amount of pesticides that they're actually holding is not good for us. But strawberries are a great summer food. You can put them in smoothies. You can put them in. I have been eating them every day lately with my oatmeal in the morning. Just fresh sliced strawberries with a little oatmeal. So good. And also my dog Sophia, she loves strawberries, so she gets a few, and they're actually good for our dogs too because of the antioxidants. So. And of course, who doesn't love strawberry shortcake? Now, I know that my prima Eva is not on the show with us tonight because she doesn't like strawberries, but really she's the only person on the planet that I've ever met that doesn't like strawberries. I'm sure there's others. But we still love her, but she doesn't like them. But strawberry shortcake, and for me, strawberry shortcake the old-fashioned way is always the best way, the way my mama used to make it. And that is making it with Bisquick and following the recipe on the back of the box and making your Bisquick shortcake. And the nice little add, and I had it someplace this way, and I loved it, but add a little cinnamon. If you're a fan of cinnamon, add a little cinnamon to your Bisquick when you're making your strawberry shortcake. And wow, it's a really nice add. And I also, when I do my strawberry shortcake, I also don't like to just do the strawberry shortcake and strawberries and a little cream. I have to have a little ice cream in it too. So having vanilla ice cream with that. So one of my all-time favorite desserts. And strawberry pie. My mom used to make a really delicious strawberry pie that basically it was kind of like a cheesecake that had strawberries on it. But unfortunately, that was one of the recipes I didn't get from her. I don't know how to make that one, but it was really, really delicious. And I know there are a lot of strawberry pie recipes out there, and I love me some good strawberry pie. So I hope that I've given you some good ideas for summer entertaining, summer fun, getting together with family and friends, and sharing the love of food with each other. So you can barbecue, you can go to the farmer's market, you can do really crazy, heavy food that's so delicious and okay sometimes, or you can go on the healthier end or do both like we try to do. The other thing that I know I've had friends have tried to grill that I haven't yet done is making pizza on your grill. And I know there's some recipes out there that I've seen. I haven't been brave enough to try it yet on my oak pit, but at one point I'm going to have to. But one of the best ones that I've ever had at somebody else's house was a fig pizza. And it was fig and goat cheese, and I believe it was a little olive oil, and they did it on a grill. And wow, it was amazing. So if any of you are listening and you have any pizza recipes that you or somebody that you know has made on a grill, send them my way. I'm looking because I'm going to start experimenting. That sounds fun to me. And I think it also sounds fun to try the dessert pizzas to see how that would go because oftentimes, I'm doing a dessert separate or, we're just doing fruit, but it would be actually kind of fun to have the grill kind of warm and make a pizza as well. So that might be really, really wonderful. So if you have a recipe, send it my way, please. I would love to have it. All right. So with the remaining few minutes that we have, I wanted to tell you a little bit about some of the guests that we have for the remainder of the summer. It's going to be fun, lots and lots of fun. We have a chef from New Orleans who's going to be joining us here in a few weeks to talk about comfort food. I follow her on Instagram, Joy Pure Joy, and she does a lot of New Orleans cooking, and wow, looks amazing. I love following her. Her food is very inspiring. And then we are, going to have other chefs and other pastry chefs as well. So it's going to be a summer of food, of course. And we're going to have a couple of interesting artists. One of them that I'm super excited about is going to come and talk to us about her sandcastle business. So for my birthday this year, my hubby and I went and we built a sandcastle at one of our beaches here. And oh my gosh, it was so fun. So this young artist helped us and she was amazing. So she's going to be on my show, which would be really fun to talk about. And the other thing that we're going to do that I'm thrilled about is one of our friends. His hobby is restoring and making knives. And this man knows everything there is to know about knives. And this year for my birthday, my hubby had him make me a custom knife. So I'll be talking more about that, but the importance of having a really good knife, how to care for your knives. So that will be coming up in August. So lots of fun, lots of learning. Like I said, it's always about, for me, wanting to share more about food and more about community around food and the joy that food brings all of us. And also, a few weeks ago, I spoke to the amazing, the pepper cook from Mumbai, India, and I made her mango prawn curry. That curry is unbelievably awesome. So if you are a curry fan, I recommend you make that recipe. It's really easy. It's on her website, The Pepper Cook, and also super delicious. All right, everyone. I've had so much fun sharing what I know about barbecue and Santa Maria Style BBQ and thinking about cooking with my mama tonight. So thank you for joining us. I hope that you will listen to other shows. And thank you so much for listening to tonight. Remember to add the most important ingredient to every recipe you make, your love. And as my mama always said to me as we said our goodbyes, que Dios te bendiga. May God bless you. I want to thank our fabulous producer, Ade. Thank you for tuning in to Molé Mama Cooking with Love.